Now we'll start with polymers. So, polymers, as you all can see, is made up of two words, that is poly and mers. Now, if we see both the meanings of these terms, now poly here means many and mers is units. So, this literally translates into many units. So, the word polymer is coined from two Greek words. Poly means many and mer mean unit apart. Okay, so polymer is defined as very large molecules having high molecular mass, or you can call them macromolecules. For example, if we take an example, see, polymers can be formed by repeating units, so many units. So we have taken up one ethene molecule over here. Now, what happens is if we start repeating this ethene, we know we'll get a straight chain consisting of CH2 in a large quantity. So, this is when we repeat or we have many units of ethene. So, if we can see that here this contains ethene as this. So, here we find ethene. So, we're repeating ethene a lot of times. And when we do that, so we're repeating it and now we can write it as, so how do we represent our polymers? Suppose we have taken n units of ethene. So we have taken many units of ethene and it gets written as this. So now this polymer of ethene can be represented in such a manner and we can say that n number of units. So they have n units in a straight line. Now there this is a macromolecule because it has high molecular mass and the macromolecule or the polymer of ethene is known as polythene. So polythene. Now this macromolecule, the name of this polymer is polythene. So polymers as such find a huge usage in our daily lives and they are the backbone of four major industries, particularly plastics, elastomers, fibers, and paints and varnishes. So you find them every day in your day-to-day lives. Now, we can therefore define polymers as, so if we have a definition of polymers, we can say that polymers are giant molecules, and we can say that which are formed by small units joined together. So they are formed by small units joined together by covalent bonds. So we have covalent bonds joining a lot of units together and they are known as polymers. Now, if we see, now what are we trying to do over here? So let us say that we have another unit over here and this particular one is known as, so we have got this particular unit over here and if we see this one is called as styrene. Now styrene over here, if we want to repeat it a couple of times, it turns into, so we have taken n units of styrene and now what happens is that we will get a polymer of styrene. So it will look something like this, CH2, CH, the double bond has to break so that it can be opened for joining on both the sides and this particular polymer is known as polystyrene. So the method that this process of conversion of a monomer. So now styrene over here is our monomer and polystyrene over here is our polymer. So we can say that when we are converting a monomer to a polymer, the process which is undergoing it, the monomer is undergoing is polymerization. So we call this process as polymerization. So now we can say that, so what are monomer over here? So monomer is the smallest unit which repeats. Now we can easily say that the smallest unit which is repeating itself is known as our monomer. And the next thing that we have polymerization, and we can see from the above example that polymerization is nothing but the technique, or we can call it the process by which a monomer converts to a polymer. So we have seen a lot of terms over here, namely monomer, that is the smallest unit which is repeating itself a number of times. Then we have seen polymerization, which is the technique or the process by which the conversion of monomer to a polymer is taking place. So we have called the polymer as a macromolecules. Now let us see what are macromolecules. So macromolecules, if we have to see, so macromolecules, if we have to write, so they are giant molecules. What other things that we have to remember is that they are giant molecules. Also, we have to remember that they have high molecular mass. So they have high molar mass. Now, the thing that we want to remember macromolecules is that polymers are actually a branch of macromolecules, and we are calling polymers as macromolecules. So polymers are known as specific macromolecules. So it is a category under macromolecules, polymers. Okay. And next is that polymers are actually formed by repetition of smaller units, as we have seen, and these smaller units we know are called as monomers. So they are formed by the repetition of monomers. As you can clearly see that polymers here are referred to as specific macromolecules. So we can now say that all polymers are macromolecules, but all macromolecules are not polymers. Okay. So what we have got from these two, that we have defined what is a macromolecule as well as we have seen what a polymer is. Now we can now say that all polymers are macromolecules because they all come under the category of macromolecules. But we have to remember that but, so it is an important for us to remember this part, that all macromolecules are not polymers, because polymers are very specific macromolecules which are formed by repetition of a single again and again and again. So a repetition of smaller units, but macromolecules can be a molecule where no repetition of smaller units has taken place. So therefore this particular part is of importance to us, that all polymers are macromolecules. Okay.